that we've learned how to use the if, ifs, countif, and SUMIF functions, in this video we'll look at how to use the VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP reference functions. VLOOKUP is one of the most commonly used reference type functions in Excel, and it enables you to find data referenced in a lookup table. It stands for vertical lookup, and therefore is a useful tool when you want to find something in a table or a range by row. Shortly, we will look at HLOOKUP, which stands for horizontal lookup, which looks for data by column instead. VLOOKUP works by using a common shared key between the source data and the lookup data in the lookup table. A typical lookup formula would look like $VLOOKUP, open parentheses, B3, comma, A2 colon B12, comma 2, comma, false, close parentheses, where B3 is the lookup value, that is, the value or word you are looking for. A2 colon B12 is the lookup table or range, that is, the table array or range of cells that contains the lookup value. In a formula, Excel references this as table_array. The lookup table can be on the same worksheet or in another separate worksheet. 2 is the lookup column number, that is, the number of the column in the lookup table that contains the value you are looking for. In a formula, Excel references this as col_index_num. False is an optional parameter that determines whether the match found has to be exact, denoted by false, or can be approximate, denoted by true. In a formula, Excel references this as open square bracket, range_lookup, close square bracket. The square brackets round this argument in the formula signifies that it is an optional argument, whereas the others are required arguments of a VLOOKUP formula. If you don't specify the optional false or true parameter in your formula, it will default to false. That is, an exact match is required. You can also use the number 0 instead of false, and the number 1 instead of true. Okay, now let's see the VLOOKUP function in action. In the car sales worksheet, suppose we wanted a quick price list of our favorite cars. The first thing we need to do is put the column containing the value we want to search for in the leftmost column, as VLOOKUP requires this. Then we can delete the original column. We then enter the formula seen in cell V16, which is looking for the word Corvette in the table array from cell A2 to G156, and then looks for the value in the fifth column, in this case, the price column, that matches the row containing Corvette and returns an exact value of $45,705. Note that in this example, we are using a part of our existing data table as the lookup table or table array. Let's format that as US currency. Then we'll format it to 0 decimal places. In fact, rather than use the reference A25 in the formula, it will be easier to use the reference to the word Corvette in the mini table in this worksheet where our list of favorite cars is. So that is V5, and the formula still works. Now let's copy that formula up to the favorite car table above it in the worksheet. But there's a problem, because when we copied the formula, the cell references changed. This happened because, as we learned earlier in this course, the default state of cell references is relative, and we want them to be absolute in this case. So let's undo that copy operation. To make the cell references absolute, we need to add dollar symbols to all the cell references in the formula. This can either be done manually, or you can put the cursor in each cell reference in turn in the formula and press F4 each time to automatically add the dollar symbols. Let's try and copy the formula again, and this time it works. If we use the fill handle on cell W5 to copy it down to the rest of the cars, it doesn't work. In fact, we end up with the same result in every cell. Why? Because each one is referencing the same cells in the lookup value, because we used an absolute reference. All we need to do now is modify the formula to remove the absolute reference for just the row parameter in the lookup value part of the formula, by removing the dollar symbol. So in cell W5, we change $V$5 to $V5, comma. Then, when we drag the fill handle down, it will copy the formula correctly, and all the prices will be changed to reflect their correct retail price. Lastly, to show that the two tables are now connected by this VLOOKUP function, if we change the retail price for the Chevrolet Corvette in the main data table in cell E25, the price will also change in the favorite car's price list. Let's now take a look at the HLOOKUP function, which, as we mentioned earlier, does the same thing and works in virtually the same way as the VLOOKUP function, but it looks for data in columns rather than rows. So, HLOOKUP looks for a word or value in the top row of a table, and then returns a value in the same column from a row specified in the table array. Therefore, you would use HLOOKUP if your comparison values were situated in a row along the top of a data table. In contrast, you would use VLOOKUP if your comparison values were located in a column to the left of the data you want to find, as they were in the previous task. Of the two functions, VLOOKUP is used far more frequently than HLOOKUP because of the nature of most data tables. The syntax for HLOOKUP is identical to that of VLOOKUP, except that you specify a row index number, referenced in a formula by Excel as row_index_num. This indicates the number of the row in the lookup table that contains the value you are looking for. Let's create a small lookup table on the right-hand side of our main data table. A few columns have been hidden in this worksheet to make viewing a little easier. So now we've got low HP, medium HP, and high HP in the top row of our lookup table. Next, we'll add wingding symbols as ratings for the 3 horsepower levels. 1 sad face for the low horsepower rating, 2 neutral faces for the medium rating, and 3 happy faces for the high horsepower rating. Now, let's add a new column to the right of the HP level column and call it HP rating. Then in cell L2, we'll enter the HLOOKUP function. This function will look for the value in cell K2, which in this case is medium HP, and it will look for it in the cell range from Y21 to AA22, which is our little lookup table, and it will return the answer it finds in row 2 of the table under medium HP and use an exact value. Note that we've used some absolute references in this formula too. Notice that what is returned is the text KK, so we need to format the cell using the Wingdings font. Now, when we double-click the fill handle, the whole column shows the HP rating symbols relevant to each row's HP level value. And we're done. Although VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP are regularly still used as the de facto functions for lookup references in Excel, there is a newer function called XLOOKUP. This version is only supported on Excel desktop versions from Excel for Microsoft 365 and on Excel for the web, as well as on Excel for iPad and iPhone and Excel for Android tablets and phones. XLOOKUP is an improved and combined version of VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP together. It can work in any direction, vertically or horizontally. It also uses separate lookup array and return array values, instead of a single table array and a column or row index number. In this video, we learned how to use the VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP functions in Excel to find and connect to data referenced in both vertical and horizontal lookup tables. In the videos coming up in the next lesson, we'll start to look at using pivot tables in Excel.